What's goody, mi gente? It's Melany Movez here. We at you live and direct in Los Angeles for Blacktinidad, where we're gonna be talking about everything that is Latino, but Black as F. All right, so first, let's talk about it. This is a new term everybody's getting all hype about. What the is an Afro-Latino? And it kind of brings to mind this one time I saw this interview on The Breakfast Club with Charlamagne No God. No offense to Charlamagne, but he kind of misconceptualized what exactly is an Afro-Latino, first in an interview with Dasha Polanco, and then in an interview with Amara La Negra. And I guess maybe I can define it for him. And hopefully he knows what it is now, because that was a couple of years ago, and so people are using the term a lot more. And so let's discuss this a little bit, because I find that with African Americans, I have to explain this term a lot. So the short answer is this: Afro-Latinos belong to both groups. They're both Black and Latinos, since Black is a race and Latino is an ethnicity. All right, they're the people of African descent in Mexico, Central and South America, and the Spanish-speaking Caribbean, as well as Brazil and Haiti. And by extension, those of African descent in the United States whose origins are in Latin America and the Caribbean, like me. And the thing that kind of confuses me the most about people's misconceptualization of Afro-Latinidad is the slave trade, because the slaves were in Latin America first, right? So I don't understand how there's not this concept to be understood about Black people in Latin America. And just so you know, there were 12.5 million slaves brought over here from Africa, and only about 400,000 went to the US. I'm not gonna do the math because I'm trash at math, but if you were to do the arithmetic, that's a pretty small percentage. That means that the majority of the Black people on this side of the hemisphere of the world are in Latin America. So shouldn't be that hard to understand what exactly is an Afro-Latino. I figured now it might be good to highlight within Black History Month, because it is Black History Month, Black Latino history. And it's super, super important. And I think the person that I want to talk about today is none other than Arturo Schomburg, who we know as one of the fathers of Black history, and not just Black Latin history, Black history in general. So let's talk about Schomburg. I'm going to read an excerpt from a book, and it is called Diasporic Blackness: The Life and Times of Arturo Schomburg by Vanessa Valdez. And if you want to learn you something, maybe you should go to Barnes & Noble and pick it up. All right, so Schomburg was a Black Puerto Rican born. In 1874, he was a collector and archivist whose personal library was the basis of the Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture at the New York Public Library, and that's in Harlem. He founded the Negro Society for Historical Research and led the American Negro Academy, all the while collecting and assembling books, prints, pamphlets, articles, and other ephemera produced by Black men and women from across the Americas and Europe. His curated library collection at the New York Public Library emphasized the presence of African peoples and their descendants throughout the Americas, and would serve as an indispensable resource for the luminaries of the Harlem Renaissance, including Langston Hughes and Zora Neale Hurston. He was part of the Cuban and the Puerto Rican independence movement, and fun fact, he helped found what we now know as the Puerto Rican flag. So us Puerto Ricans, we be waving that flag for no reason. It'd be like, woke up in the morning, wave the flag. We could thank Arturo Schomburg for the flag that we love so much. All right, cool. So we have a lot more info for you, so stay tuned. We'll be back with more. What's up, you guys? Welcome back. Again, I'm Melany Movez, and you're watching Blacktinidad. So I figure, let's talk about me for a minute, you know, because I'm the host. And I kind of wanted to talk about my journey in learning about my Blackness. And every single Latino's journey is a little bit different. And I find that we tend to have this journey because there is a lot of anti-Blackness and a lot of colorism and racism in Latin America. I did not grow up completely identifying as a Black woman. I grew up being Puerto Rican, being proud, and because I was in foster care, I was in a lot of African American homes, and I wondered why I fit in so well. I fit in the Black homes more than I fit in the white homes, and I kind of had this idea that maybe I'm Black. And guess what? I was right, because obviously my grandfather, he was a Black Puerto Rican. He was a Black man. My grandmother was more of a mulata, a mixed Puerto Rican. And honestly, my family, we kind of have the spectrum of colors, and I just ended up coming out a little bit darker. And that's why I had all these questions. So I went to college, and I decided to minor in Africana Studies and Latin American and Caribbean Studies. And I learned so much about the Black people in Latin America. And I really learned how to connect with my roots. I had this huge curiosity, and I just wanted to continue digesting more and more history and more information, because unfortunately, they also don't really teach that in school. In my mind, I'm like, why we had a week of Latin America and a month of China? This just didn't make any sense to me. So that's kind of how I feel about it. I feel like we need to learn a lot more about the very many different peoples that encompass what we know as Latin America. Specifically, the Black people in Latin America, because without Black history in Latin America, there'd be no Latin American history, which kind of brings me to my next guest. I'm so excited to bring him on. Please stay tuned and watch. We have Javier Wallace joining us from Afro-Latino Travel. He has so much information about Black Latino history, and I'm super, super excited to bring him here so you guys can join in the wealth of knowledge that honestly, I've already immersed myself with. So stay tuned, be back. You're watching Blacktinidad. Yo, what's goody? It's Melany Movez here, and today we're interviewing a very special someone. We have with us Javier Wallace. ¿Cómo tú estás? How are you?
Bueno, muy bien, estoy yo. Estoy muy, muy bien. Thank y'all for having me.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
I'm Javier Wallace, and I just often tell people that I am a Black man, or yo soy un hombre negro, with multiple citizenships with the United States and Panama. I'm currently finishing a PhD at the University of Texas at Austin, where I'm actually born and raised to an African-American mother and a Black Panamanian man. And since 2015, I've been working with my co-founder, Dash Harris Machado, with Afro Latinx Travel, and curating experiences into Latin America, focusing on the African Diaspora. And I look right now at human trafficking in U.S. high school basketball among Black kids from Latin America. And I'm also the founder of Black Austin Tours. I do a lot. I don't know. Too many things. You
sound like you're pretty talented. Okay, cool. So how about talk about what led you and Dash to start Afro-Latin Travel?
Yeah, most definitely us. And I say that because we really wanted an opportunity to share who we are with the world and center the experience, history, and contributions of Black people in the spaces that we came from, because Dash as well is of Panamanian descendancy. Both of her parents are Panamanian. And we were living in Panama at the time. We relocated to Panama from the United States, learning about life, learning about being young in the world, and then also just a pure passion that we have for our people and history, and understanding the pure disregard that the larger society had for our history, culture, and our people. And we wanted to do something to disrupt the economy that was leaving Black people out, that have folklorized Black people. And we thought travel would be one way to get into it. So we just put our ideas together, and we started offering these tours in Panama, and then we branched into Cuba, and then it's just been growing from there.
Are you guys thinking about going to like other Latin American countries and then focusing on the Black aspects of them as well, like maybe Colombia, Honduras, Puerto Rico, like wherever else? Are those things coming in the future as well? Because I find that, especially now that a lot of people are doing, for instance, like, Ancestry or 23andMe or whatever, and they're looking to connect back with their roots. And a lot of them are looking for their African roots in Latin America. Is that something that you want to expand on?
Well, we have expanded beyond Panama and Cuba. Those were the two countries that we started with. But since we've done tours in Peru, we've done tours in Costa Rica. We had an upcoming tour that was canceled to Puerto Rico during COVID. We've done things in Colombia. So we've already have moved beyond just the borders of Panama and Cuba, because the diaspora, it stretches from, like they say, from Canada to the end of Patagonia. And like there's no country in the Americas that has not had a significant population and contribution of African people and their descendants. So we oftentimes do get a lot of individuals that are, let's say, like Puerto Rican Dominican or of Latin American heritage from the United States that come into our trips to learn more about the African history, contributions, and experiences in these different countries in Latin America, even though they might not share that same history. And we have also a lot of African Americans too that come into it because this idea of expanding and getting to know the diaspora and all of our experiences in these different places.
Yeah, I think that's so dope. I was talking to Blacktina earlier, and we were sharing how in our experience educating ourselves in the United States, well, first of all, Latin America was a week and China was a month, and I don't know why that was the case, but we never really learned about, like, you know, the Black contributions to Latino traditions and Latino culture, Latino history at all, which is shocking, especially, you know, we look ourselves in the mirror and we're like, I know we got here somehow. Like, why are we not learning about this? And I told her I was fortunate enough to minor in it in college. And that's kind of like how I learned a lot of it and how, like, some of that curiosity. And I just kind of started digging and I was like, oh, this is it. This is it. They don't want to teach us in school. So I think that's amazing. And I think it's also something that's really important because I find that a lot of African Americans, they have, like, no idea. And it might be, you know, the media's fault, but specifically because I'm Puerto Rican, they're always like, but I thought you were like half Puerto Rican and half Black. I'm like, well, I am, but I'm like 100% Puerto Rican. You know what I mean? And then I'm like, and just so you know, like, they're Puerto Ricans who are like black as night, just so you know. Really? And I'm like, yeah. You know what I mean? So they have, like, this idea that Puerto Ricans are certain, so they'll automatically assume that I'm Dominican or I'm Panamanian. And I'm like, I'm not even the cusp of Blackness in Puerto Rico. Like, nah. So I think it's dope that you're, like, actually, you know, there are African Americans who are open to this, to, like, really connect with the diaspora, which I think is so important because I find that that disconnect is definitely a tool of colonialism and imperialism, and that disconnect needs to be broken. Why don't we talk about some of the Latino traditions that are African? You know, people don't know, but they're African. There are many. So I'll let you start. Maybe we could go back and forth because I'm telling you, everything I love about Latino culture, that shit is Black as fuck.
That's where I'll start. Well, what is this idea of Latino? Like, who is Latino? What does Latino mean? And if you ask me, I don't think Latino means Black at all, but everything that is Black is Black is Black. Mm-hmm. Like, we can't talk about any type of cultural form. You can't even talk about revolution in Latin America without talking about Black people. So, you know, for me, like, when I want to say, like, one particular form, it is so hard for me to name one because all of them have been influenced and many times co-opted and stolen from Black people and made into these Latino things when I believe that most of these things have just African ancestry. I mean, you can't talk about music, can't talk about food. I mean,
you know what I read the other day and I was shocked about? I mean, I'm Puerto Rican, so most of the things that I know in Puerto Rico that are Black, that are African root, like, I feel like they're pretty obvious. Their names are even African. But, like, for instance, horchata is African. I was like, get the out of here. That's crazy. But, like, in Puerto Rico, for instance, mofongo, mondongo, sancocho, all of that, bomba plena, like, salsa music in general, Black, right? Merengue, bachata, reggaeton, you know, I mean, the list goes on. So is there anything that you want to add to the list? I think for me, it's like, for the viewers to know, like, you love this about Latino culture, that is Black.
Everything. I mean, even when we talk, keeping, like, with music, like, you can't talk about cumbia and say that Selena made cumbia famous and forget the entire roots of cumbia being a product of African people trafficked into the Americas and retaining their drumming patterns and turning that into the base of what we understand the cumbia to be. You know, we can't talk about any type of dish, like even when you say mofongo, again, in like banana, guineo in Panama, guineo is what we call banana, and guineo refers to what Europeans were calling Guinea, or what we now know as Africa, and these individuals keeping these traditions alive. I mean, the languages that we speak, the patterns that people speak in the Caribbean, like the Puerto Rican inflection on words, the Panamanian inflections on words and speech, how we pronounce words, how we don't pronounce certain letters, are all connected back to the African influence. Now, whether the countries want to recognize that, now that's something totally different. That's something completely different, completely different. But I mean, you can't talk about Latin America and not intentionally talk about Black people and their contributions to the space in every aspect, including political education, everything.
Everything. And I think that's so great. And I think as I learn more and more about it, because, you know, I grew up American and they didn't teach you. And in my household, they didn't teach me. I had to learn. My curiosity had to bring me to these things. On your page, and you touched on this a little bit, on your page you say Latin American history is Black history. Why? Because
if we don't say that, we continue to erase Black people from everything that Latin America is. I mean, from the inception of the trafficking of millions of African people to what we now know as Latin America, to build these economies, because not one European body, nor the French, nor the Spanish, nor the Portuguese, intended on doing the work themselves. And they needed African people. They didn't need it. They wanted African people to perform the labor. You know, so anything that people find themselves being proud of in these spaces or this culture, if you're not talking about what African people and their descendants have done to ensure that you can even have pride, you're completely erasing. So if any aspect of Latin American history is to be told, and it's not inclusive of Black people, it's wrong. So any Latin American history is Black history, and it has to be told that way, because if not, we only replicate the harm that has already been happening for 500 years. That's my take on it. That's our take on it. Afro-Latino Travel is, this is the perspective that we bring to it. Yeah. This is our perspective. And I concur. Last thing I want to talk about real quick is you and Dash, you guys do history like lessons. Do you guys do it like virtually via Zoom? I think it's so dope. And talk about that a little bit. Talk about when's your next series coming up. And then talk about where to find you so that we can definitely go on and we can learn a little bit about Black history in Latin America, because we should know it. You already know. You already know. But what we do, we're currently in the iteration of El Invierno Negro, because we do Black Latin American history classes that go with the season. We started in Verano, in the summer. We brought the heat. So if anybody's still in a blizzard up north in New York, wherever you find you, come take one of our classes. We finna blow all that snow out the way, because that's what we do. We bring the fire. And I mean, again, perspective. We take everything that you have learned and what you definitely have not learned, and we put it in a way that's accessible, digestible, and hopefully make you think about who you are. Like Evelyn and Dash and Javier say all the time from Radio Caña Negra, ubíquense. Locate yourself. So in these classes, we really try to bring a wealth of information, a wealth of different topics, different countries, gender, race in Latin America, obviously, different regions of Latin America, the Southwest of the United States, including Central America, the U.S. empire within Latin America, and El Invierno Negro. That is the first class. This is part 2 of the series. This is a whole new set of information, y'all. It is starting on February 18th. It's 3 days, 6 hours in total. I promise if you come, you will not be the same. Tú vas a cambiar todo, como tú piensas. Mira, I'm not going to say that because y'all might go and tell your abuelita what I said.
Yeah, well, you know what? This may air after the 18th. So is there a way to tap into this after the history lesson? Can we download it? Is this something that we can have on demand and go back and continue to learn this knowledge post the actual class itself? Or is that something that you guys are looking into? Because I think this should be something that y'all throw in my little whatever. And in June, I could be like, Deme el invierno negro. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, we do not record the classes because of the content that we bring. So we want individuals to come. We want to make sure we protect like what we're doing, but we always invite people all the time to check out our Instagram page because there is a wealth of information on our IG page. Like you won't believe how long it takes to write an Instagram post for us because of the amount of care that we take to make sure that we fact check, that we are preserving the humanity of people, that we're not calling people slaves, that we're saying enslaved African people if we're referring to Black people, that we're in the condition of bondage. So we always encourage people, if you can't make the class for whatever reason, even if it's financial, we get sponsors too. So sponsors come out for people who cannot afford it, and we can get spots. All we ask is to reach out, but always make sure y'all check out our site, Afro-Latino, on Instagram, on Twitter, what have you, to make sure you can get the information if you need it, and it's a lot. And we'll do these classes hasta que se acabe el mundo.
Okay, so at Afro-Latino Travel on Instagram, and we can get all that information, all the wealth of life. Trust, I follow all those pages. I get lost in the rabbit hole of that information, and I literally, it's a passion of mine to like get lost in the sauce of like finding myself and finding my roots. So I appreciate you doing that for the world. Like you are doing such a great service to the world and to like all of us in the diaspora. So truly, truly appreciative of you.
Thank you. I appreciate it on behalf of Afro-Latino Travel. We appreciate it. It makes us feel good. When people reach out to us and say that we literally have changed their lives. And it blows my mind when I hear people say that, but if that is the case, I'm more than happy to do this work because I think it's time that we respect the humanity of the people that have given us everything that we have right now. Absolutely. So let me thank you for joining us today.
I will see you on Instagram, double tapping my life away and jodiéndote la vida for la información. You know what I'm saying? All that good stuff.
Thank you so much for the interview, the time we shared today. More than happy to be here. Y'all take care. We love y'all. See y'all soon.
Peace out, yeah.